Welcome to the CEO Journeys podcast. I'm Paul Vetter, CEO and co-founder of VXIT, an IT service provider based in South Florida. This podcast highlights the successes and the struggles of the everyday entrepreneur and business leader. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone, to CEO Journeys. We have a fun guest here. I was joking with him before we got started that you're probably going to be my most experienced guest. We have a good friend of mine and my Vistage leader, States Hines. Welcome to the podcast, States.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Let's get started. There's a couple things. So you're 91.
That's correct.
You were born in 1935.
Yes.
And we were just talking 20 years ago, you set a goal to live to 120.
Correct.
And I just asked you about that, if that was still your goal, and you're saying that you could probably extend it because of the medical advances.
I'm thinking about extending it based on medical improvements and the science that's existing and current birth-death rate of people who make it past 60 to 70.
Okay. So is that something that you're going to make a decision on this year?
As far as creating a new goal.
Yes.
I don't know whether it'll be this year, but it's certainly a discussion I'm having with my doctors.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So let's rewind here for a second. So you and I met through Vistage. So I can describe at a very high level what I see Vistage as and what I call it, but I'd love to hear from you. So I call what we do a peer group, where you bring in a speaker in the morning. And this is a speaker that I tell people it's like an MBA level speaker, very high level. And they speak about business topics and it can range from HR to AI. And then in the afternoon, we all sit around as a group and talk about risk, opportunity, and things like that for our business. So I'd love to hear, because you've been doing Vistage for a very long time. In fact, you've been running this group for a very long time. So I'd love for you to just kind of give us a brief overview that for those that don't know about Vistage, what exactly it is.
It's interesting, the perception, and I'm really thrilled to hear your thoughts and reactions to what we do. I guess I would take a slight exception to your bring in speakers. I like to think of them as teachers, guys who have screwed up and somehow figured out what they did wrong and are willing to come and confess and tell us how to not do that and what to do next, or they have created a whole new program, and AI is certainly a new program and mysterious, I think, even to them sometimes, and boy, is it ever for all of us.
Yeah.
And it continues to be, because every time we think, oh, wow, we've now been given the Holy Grail, I bring back another guy and it's a start all over again. But Vistage is a place where CEOs can go to have all of their answers questioned by a group of peers, as you pointed out,
Yep.
that are guys that are more or less equal to them.
Yeah.
They've founded their businesses, they created their businesses, they went through the problems of starting infancy and into go-go and then finally getting into maturity. Not everybody's to maturity yet, and I'm not sure when it is, and I'm not sure I ever want to be in maturity, but I think it's just a wondrous place, because it doesn't really need me to lead as the chairman of the group, because once you put a group of really talented guys like yourself and the rest of the people in your group, if you just stand back, you guys start asking each other how to, what to, and look at what I did kind of conversations. And sometimes I feel bad having to interrupt to say, gee, we brought this guy in from Los Angeles or Chicago or someplace. Probably ought to give him a chance to teach us something. But because you're all doing such great things. And that's what Vistage has been, not just for me during the time I've been a chairman, which has been 36 years now, but even when I was a member, I can remember what it was like to my first meeting as a member of the group, and I didn't feel I was qualified to be in the group. And I walked in and I looked around and I thought, oh gosh, these guys are all some people that are been there, done that. And then I start hearing what they had to say. And one of them turned to me and said, States, you're usually not quite so quiet. And I said, I'm dumbfounded. And they said, dumbfounded at what? And I said, the problems and issues you're talking about are the same ones I have. I thought you guys had all solved that already. And what I've learned over the last, too many years is the problems come in different ways, but they're the same ones over and over. But we have to find new and different solutions because technology alone is just changes over and over and over, and it makes it so exciting to be at the edge of it, which is one of the reasons why my quest for length of life, because I think we're just at the beginning of the next part of what will be phenomenal as a life cycle of the world, and I want to be here to see it.
Yeah. So let's pause there and talk about that. I mean, and we've talked about it because we have one-on-ones every month where we sit at Panera Bread, and you have an oatmeal and a coffee, and I have an iced coffee. And we just talk for a couple of hours. But
by the way, folks, that's because we're there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Yeah. It's our morning on Thursdays, which is great. I really look forward to that time. But we've talked about this a couple of times, and you've walked me through, but I'd like to just kind of talk with everybody here, the changes you've seen over your lifetime. I mean, to have been born in 1935, now we're in 2026. The evolution of technology, of business. I mean, when you started in business, maybe start. I know when you introduce a new member to the group, you say to introduce yourself, start with when I was born. So maybe I'll put you on the spot there and do that. But I'd like to get to kind of your first jobs and what the environment looked like then, and then kind of as it progressed.
Well, I have to ask for a definition there. When you say first job, you mean job that you would consider an adult kind of job, or do you mean my first job?
That's a good question. For funsies, let's start with your first job.
My first job was cleaning houses.
Okay.
I was really quite young. My mother had someone who came and cleaned the house. I got a 50 cent a week allowance, and I found out she made $4 an hour to clean the house. And I looked around, saw what she did, and I said, my gosh, I'd like that. $4. She's here 4 hours. That's more money than I can imagine almost. Because I'm probably 9 years old, 10 years old. And so I went to my mother and pled my case, and she said, well, she's going on vacation for a couple of weeks, so I'll try you out. And I did a good job, and so I got the job. And so interview is always, and do a good job, be there on time. And so my mother was a beautician, and so she said something to some of her clients about, gee, you won't believe what's happened here. My son, blah, blah, blah. And they said, does he have extra time? And so before I knew it, I was kind of in my first business, and it has gone uphill ever since, or maybe downhill. I'm not sure which, but.
That's fascinating. I actually did not know that. I did not know that story. So, okay. So your first job was cleaning houses. Let's talk about your first adult job.
My first adult job, which means I guess when I'm out of school.
Yeah.
I
Maybe you have a briefcase, you go to an office.
Yeah. I mean, I started some businesses while I was in college, which is kind of what got me very excited about business and managing and doing things with people and discovering people like to be have someone help them with their careers. And but when I finished schools, I lived in Fresno, California, which at that time 30,000 people, maybe if you counted the dogs and cats. And I thought, this is not the place for me. And so I packed up my few belongings and drove to Los Angeles, California in search of a job. And I thought I was going to work in for Capitol Records, because I had, as a small business, had a recording company in Fresno, a college kind of thing, and they had bought one of our recording artists and said, if you ever want a job, come on down to Los Angeles, because we'd love to have you in the studio. And I thought, wow, that's kind of neat. And then I'd done some other things, so I had an introduction to CBS, and so I thought, well, I got prospects, and so I arrive at Capitol Records and, hello there, how are you? States Hines is here, and I'd like to talk about that studio job. And they said, who? And, with a funny name like States, I kind of understood, well, that's that.
Yeah.
And so I went over to Capitol Records, over to NBC, and they said, oh, yes, we've got a job for you. You'll be a page. And they told me how much that paid, and it wasn't enough to actually buy meals even. And so I kind of said, well, thank you very much. And I was sitting in a coffee shop, and Guy said to me, we were lamenting, and he says, do you have any electrical or electronics? And I said, yeah, I do, sort of. And he said, would you go over and interview at Douglas Aircraft with the vice president of engineering for me? And I said, why? And he said, I just sold him a house, told me I'd give you $100 for if you send me any applicant that has some qualifications.
Wow.
And I'll split it with you. And back in those days, $100 was a lot of money, and $50 was fabulous, and probably get me through another week. And so I went over, interviewed, and it turned out I really liked Peter Dion, vice president of engineering, and I really liked the job opportunity. And then he told me how much they paid, and I said, yes, sir. And my career changed from show business to aerospace, airplane, aircraft, and within a relatively short period of time, missiles.
Wow.
And so that was my real first job, was Douglas Aircraft.
So you started in the aerospace industry, but I know that you eventually went into chip manufacturing, like microchips, were you in Silicon Valley or around Silicon Valley?
Microchips is, no, I actually, when you said 1935, if people added it all up, I knew vacuum tube.
Vacuum
I
tube.
did
Okay.
not know solid state.
Okay.
And I was technically totally obsolete by the time I got to Los Angeles, because transistors sort of were coming out. Bell Labs had invented it. They got the copyrights and patents, and people were starting to play with them a little bit. And so, but there was no such thing. I mean, a chip which was contaminated as best, and made into a switch, a little bitty thing about the size of a thimble.
A thimble. Okay, got it.
A TO5 transistor was all there was in the world. A 1N404, a 2N404, and a diode, and 1N265, 165, and that was the total world of transistor, not chip, not microsurgery, not circuits. And so it took a long while from that 1955 period to get to where you're talking about.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, no, that's true. And you were kind of in that transistor world.
Oh, yes. My next job was working for the first manufacturer of transistors.
Okay.
I know nothing about them, but for some reason they thought I would be a good person to go teach engineers how to use them. Now, that's what they called it. In reality, they were talking about go sell.
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, because I know you're a great salesman. So, yeah, that was code for sales. So you started to sell.
Yes.
So what was some applications back then? What were these transistors going into?
The inertial nav platform that allowed airplanes finally to be able to get, without using the Omni system, they could actually get up and make it from LA to to New York with a few course adjustments. So the inertial nap certainly was one of the major users. And Burroughs Computer was another place I spent a lot of time starting to build smaller computers instead of giant 2, 3, 4 stories. Get it down to maybe 1-story building, and then beyond that, the next came and the next came, and pretty soon we had transistors, small. We were able to make chips and get things very small. But by then, I had moved from sales into production management and engineering and a few other tasks, and bought my first company.
That's crazy. Jeez Louise. So if you look at your entire career, business, I mean, you've obviously seen a lot of things. What has remained the same, would you say, across your entire lifetime within business? Has there been a thing or things that have remained the
The
same?
need for people.
Okay.
I mean, today we talk about the future of robotics and all the rest of it. And interestingly enough, in 1955, we were talking about robotics and the replacement of people with computer systems even then. And in fact, the science fiction writers had been writing about it since the 40s, 30s. And so we keep thinking people are going to be unnecessary, but that's really not true.
And you believe that to be true?
I believe
for our
that
future?
to be, yeah. I think people will have to do different kinds of jobs than they thought they were going to do in this transitional change that we're going through at the moment. But it's still back to smart people need to be doing smart things, and people who enjoy and love to do things with their hands, we need them desperately, because we still got to be able to flush toilets and turn on lights and they come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's so funny. I saw on the news recently that there was a lot of people, they were doing the commencement speeches at colleges, and
Yes.
it seems like anytime they brought up AI, the college students were booing, because I think that there's this general fear that, we're all someone out there is trying to replace all the human beings. And I actually agree with you. I think that, you can, when AI first came out, I was not that I was a naysayer, but I was not convinced. I would say that my mind has changed in the last 6 months or so. And it specifically changed when I went from using ChatGPT to Claude. I saw the capabilities of Claude and how that was advancing. And the analogy that I've heard somebody use is that, when the cars started to be on the road and started to replace the horse and buggy, everybody was concerned that, the people shoveling horse shit are gonna, there's gonna be no more jobs for that.
That's right.
And that's a shitty job. Like, nobody wants that job. But it was a job at one point, and then when the horses went away, those jobs went away. But
Well, they really didn't, because we had street cleaners.
yes, yeah, exactly. So not only street cleaners, but if you think about it, the towns and the distance and the time it took to travel those distances became shorter, and there were gas stations, that popped up. So there were gas station attendants and people pumping gas. So I totally agree that there are jobs that are going to go away, but it doesn't remove the human element
Correct.
in any way, shape, or form. And you're saying this, you use AI all the time.
Yes, I do. I'm using it more and more, and for different things than I used it for 20 minutes ago, it seems like. I mean, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I got excited about AI and started bringing people to help us learn more and more about it, it seemed like, wow. And then 2 years ago, I think we had a teacher that came and talked, and we thought, oh, we really know a lot now. And then here we are at the beginning of this year, and what he talked about is all obsolete. And so I now, just like everything else in life, don't blink, because whatever you're doing today will be done differently. But it doesn't mean that it eliminates us. In fact, there's more of us now than there's ever been.
Yeah.
And yet we have so many labor-saving devices and pieces of equipment. I mean, there's certainly no reason for anybody to cook anything, yet we still do.
Yeah. I'm still waiting and looking forward to the day that we have robots cleaning the house, doing our laundry and things like that. And we talked about that. You
Yes.
actually, you texted me or called me or something, and you're like, do you have your robot on order? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And you're like, well, aren't you going to be on the cutting edge of this? Aren't you going to have a robot in your house?
Well, I mean, it seems like we have to. I mean, Ron's got them working in his factory. We certainly should have them working in our offices as well as our homes. But then we have to stop and say to ourselves, we actually have them working for us. They just don't look like what the writers talk about as a robot.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
there's tremendous robotics. I mean, I walk into my bedroom and the lights turn on. Well, who turned them on?
Yeah. So Ron, he's a fellow Vistage member. He builds and rebuilds engine parts and carburetors and things for airplanes, and he has robots. Where he had humans before building these things, he has robots building these things.
Yes.
And we got to go up to New York and see him and see that operation. It was fascinating. Yeah, I was actually joking. My wife and I were talking, Robin. We just ordered a little robot vacuum for the house. So we
Finally.
we have a little robot.
I had
coming.
one of those 5 years ago, 10, maybe even longer than that.
Yeah, and honestly, so we got one probably 6 years ago, and we used it for a little while, and it just didn't work well, and then we got rid of it. So, and she was like, you know what, I think I'm ready for this now.
Well, do you have one that washes the kitchen and kitchen floor?
This new one will. Yes, it'll do. It's good. It can vacuum and mop at the same time.
Really,
yes. And one of the reasons we did that is because we just got a couple of animals. So the girls, my daughters. I
was going to say that's no way to discuss your children.
we just got 2 birds and a hamster.
Oh boy.
And the birds are kind of making a mess now with the bird seed. So my wife was like,
But you haven't added a cat yet?
No cat.
Okay. Otherwise you won't have a bird and hamster problem.
Yeah. I'm more of a dog person, but that's okay. I've had cats in the past. All right. So let's go back to let's talk about longevity for a second. Cause I feel like anytime anybody like yourself is interviewed or somebody's talking to a person your age, they want to know the secret to life. So will you share with us your secret to living to 120 plus years?
Well, I think part of it, of course, has to do with I probably was born to the right parents who led reasonably healthy lives and provided good genes to build on. But from there, I think an active exercise life, certainly when you're growing up, most of us have, although the schools today seem to be less and less doing action things, whereas when I was going to school, you were not allowed to. You went to physical education and you did work, and it didn't matter who you were or what your capabilities were, you still did it. And I think active life, doing things outside, which is a strange thing to say, outside in the air, running around, investigating, having the good fortune of having a mind that asks questions all the time and being allowed to ask them and find the answers and being shown where to find the answers helps a lot. And then ultimately finding guides, teachers, mentors on what is good health. How should you maintain your physiological self? How should you eat? And how should you take care? Now, I lived a very active younger life, and so I was out there having a beer and a scotch and a cigar and a good time, as I think a lot of other people, but ultimately learning that through mentors or reading or paying attention to others, I've been watching people, that some of that is probably not healthy. And the people who do that a long time end up not looking healthy. And if they don't look healthy, chances are they aren't, and we're not going to see them, and we may be attending their funeral. And so I started asking doctors, what do you have to do to to live longer? What do you have to do to take care of things? And what's true and what's not? Because if you watch television, you have to take 760,000 pills an hour, not a day, and a lot of powders, and then buy all these other machines in order to just keep going. And so obviously a great deal of fiction exists there. We're in an advertising agency. They probably wouldn't like me saying things like that, but the important thing, I think, is to think and to find logical people and to keep those. I mean, I look for young doctors, and of course everybody's younger than me, so young doctors are easy to find, that have an interest in longer lives themselves. And an interest in maintaining a longer life and sharing that. And so I'm blessed with 3 or 4 guys, and and I had one gal, but she retired, that we could have really good conversations about what should I take and what should I eat and what should I do to cause my system to continue to rejuvenate, because our system's designed to rebuild itself over and over and over again and build new whatevers. I failed in a couple of instances because I've had to have a shoulder replaced, and I've got a couple of stents in my heart from eating really great food. But I'm assured by my heart doctor, who has become a really dear friend, that those stents did their job, and I have paid attention to his advice. When I came out from under the anesthetic, he said, "You've done well, but you've got to do better, and here's your homework." And he handed me an 8.5 by 11, probably 26 line grouping of things that from now on I must do, learn, read, eat. And I started following the path, and 2.5 years later, he says, you're getting your heart's back to where it should be.
That's awesome.
Yes, it scared me.
Yeah.
I got a wake-up call, but I was, 81, I think, when they put the stents in.
Wow. I had something like that happen to me similarly. I got some blood work done, and I had gotten blood work done like a year or 2 ago, and noticed my cholesterol was high. But the same doctor did it again, and my cholesterol was even higher, even after having lost about 30 pounds through that time period. And he was kind of not threatening me, but he said, you may have to go on a statin. And I really didn't want to do that, because I've heard that, it degrades muscle, and, it's not great for performance if you're an athlete, because I'm a runner and I do lift weights, and I, do Tough Mudder races and Spartan races and things like that. So I wasn't, and I don't really love.
Notice he didn't say golf. I've watched him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm a terrible golfer. But he said, if you don't take care of this, you're going to end up on a statin. And I don't like medication or having to rely on medication. So I said, I want to do this the natural way, or at least try it, because I just turned 40. So I did have a CAT scan of my heart to make sure there was no soft plaque buildup, had a calcium score done and all that. So everything looked fine, which was good news. But the bad news is like you said, the meals that I did enjoy before, the butter, lots of butter and cheeses and stuff like that, are not something that I can partake of right now. So I'm trying.
That's not true, but okay.
Yeah, well, I just need to get my numbers down.
I mean, they have the statistics world over that grass-fed,
yes,
appropriately grown animals produce great milk, which is just fine.
Yeah.
And the great milk produces great butter.
Yeah.
But if it's not grass-fed all the way, then yes, because our system was designed for eating, consuming things that are naturally done.
Yeah.
And what they feed cattle and chickens in those pens, and they never see daylight.
Yep.
I mean, it is really shocking.
Yeah, the research that I did was, I think it does have a lot to do with the processed foods and things like that. It's funny because before I kind of went on a health journey and I was really tracking what I eat. I didn't realize to what level I was consuming processed foods or too much of anything, because
Yeah.
too much of anything is a bad
Yeah,
thing.
well, processed foods just really will kill you.
Yeah. So, so I'm trying to eat cleaner. You know, I have certain goals that I'm trying to attain from a fitness standpoint. So I got to fuel properly for that with marathon running, and I want to do an ultra here in the next year or so, ultra marathon and whatnot. So, so yeah. So all that to say, it's crazy having I just turned 40, and you know, I feel like I can feel finally my body starting to slow down a little bit.
Oh, stop it.
I know, but I hadn't experienced that yet. So I'm experiencing that in real time, just a tad.
I've only known you a few years, but I haven't seen any slowdown. But I can assure you that you can get to at least 85, 90 before you feel muscular and body slow down, and that's really upsetting me. I have to clean up the words here.
Yeah.
But I am irritated that at 91 I don't get up in the morning and I don't go as far as fast as I did just 4 or 5 years ago. And my doctors are not happy to see me because that's my constant complaint, not complaint, demand. What are you guys going to do about it? And so they're working on it. I mean,
That's fascinating.
the problem is there's not enough of us at my age that are making the demands.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. And I've never.
As a producer talking in your ear.
No,
saying,
no, no.
"Hurry up." Oh, you're looking at the clock. Over
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
I haven't really put much thought. I've always thought to myself, oh, I don't want to die young or anything like that, but I've never put a plan in place to.
Don't even say young, just period. Don't want to die.
Just don't want to die. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's true.
Yes.
I don't want to die.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I pushed it out, but and it scares me a little bit because right now I have very few years left.
Sure.
In 91 to 120, and that's why I'm thinking about got to be longer, because that's not long enough.
Yeah. Well, if you could pick a number today, what would it be? Would you go to 150?
Well, it's technically possible. I mean, from what you read in a lot of the journals and things, so it's technically possible. The issue that I have to be careful of in what I want is I want to lead and be productive, competent, capable, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably shouldn't be here and wouldn't want to be here.
That is a fascinating perspective. Yeah. Do you think that, so I've heard, and I've even seen it, maybe in my own family or friends, where people retire and they kind of stop doing things. They lose interest or whatever in hobbies. They don't work, or they don't keep busy, as we say. Do you think that has had a lot to do with where you're at today? Just
absolutely.
Staying
Man
busy.
was built to work. I mean, this retirement crap is crap. I mean, this big dream of retiring.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes absolutely zero sense. I mean, I love woodworking. I love rebuilding old cars. I love doing a lot of those things. Those are hobbies I've had over the years and look forward to in my retirement years. Well, I got to tell you, you can only build so many footstools. and in reality, rebuilding cars is a lot of fun if it's not your job. And when you're retired, that's your job. And no, that's not what it's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And recently I was asked to be an elder in my church, and I said, "What's the job?" And they said, "Well, Sunday mornings you pass out the offering plate and kind of usher people around." And I said, I think there's other things I would be better suited to do within the organization, and so thank you very much for the honor, but I'll move on. And so I find myself doing other things, and the lessons I've learned in that regard is if I sit for any real period of time, in days of old when I was your age, I just couldn't sit.
Yeah.
I'd fidget and I'd say, oh, I got to go do this and I got to go do that. When I was 75 and I sat, uh, what happened is I got tired
Mm.
sitting. I got tired sitting, not tired running, not got tired pulling weeds or but more importantly, having conversations with all of you guys. I mean, I get up sometimes and I really kind of tired in the morning and I wonder why I'm tired. And then I get dressed and I get in my car and I drive over and meet with one of you. And then I meet with another one of you and I meet with another one of you because I'm blessed with 27 of you, and that I get to talk with for 2 hours every single month, and two big meetings with where I get to bring teachers in that teaches, and I feel so energized within milliseconds, not minutes, milliseconds of the first conversation. And I think our brain goes to sleep or says, oh, you've given up, so I'll give up. I'm not sure what the physics or the phenomena or the electrical circuits that kind of shut down, but I think man was intended to function at pretty much the tilt that they should go. If I wanted to use the word full tilt, but certainly 70-80% anyway.
Yeah.
I'm buying a Tesla and they said don't charge it any more than 80%, so I'm thinking, well, maybe that is applicable to our bodies too, and there is the thing of you spend so much energy. Dr. Faust taught us a long time ago that you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning and you have a handful of energy, and as you run around you're sprinkling it out. You have to be careful, don't sprinkle it all out before the end of the day or you're going to be exhausted. And so I've tried to practice that way, and I think it's the same physics phenomena that happens to batteries and everything else in life.
That is, yeah, no, that's true. So
How do you know it's true?
because I have the same experience. Like yeah, I totally agree with you.
Okay.
I can't picture a world where I quote unquote retire either. Like
Yes.
I have a hard time sitting still. And even when we have a quiet weekend on the weekend, my brain immediately operates in the, what do I have to do? What should I be doing? I shouldn't just be sitting around. Even on vacations where we go
Yes.
and we do
Yes.
things, and I can't sit around.
That's
Like,
when I plan my year on vacation.
yeah.
I look forward to being on vacation. I spend half the time planning the next 12 months.
Yeah. And I think there's moments where you can sit and rest. I think that rest is
Yes.
good,
Oh,
but
yes, rest is necessary.
but just doing nothing and not producing something, especially for entrepreneur types like ourselves.
We sat until like two Republicans at a Republican conference or something.
It's hard. And I think that the whole 80% thing, it's interesting that you bring that up, because that's
Well, you're a recent buyer of a Tesla also.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have a Cybertruck, and I love it. But the 80% in life, that's been a theme that I've understood or seen kind of play out in my business life, my personal life. And I have these conversations with my wife and even with my employees and my business partner, that if we can we want to shoot for 100% in whatever we do. But if we land somewhere around the 80% mark, I feel I've seen, and what I've experienced in life is that you're going to outpace most people, because most people aren't willing or able, for whatever reason, to operate at that 80%. So, 100% would be great, but 80%
That's
is great.
Elon Musk.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean he's the 100%.
Oh yeah. He's the 100%. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, one of our fellow guys that we have a lot of respect for sat and evaluated what it said in the Wall Street Journal day before yesterday as to what his total wealth is, which is he's not a trillionaire yet. He only has 957 or 87 billion dollars. But he took those numbers, it was Rob Vorse, took those numbers and then asked AI to help him evaluate that against the other guy that was called the richest man in the world, and that's Rockefeller back in the turn of the century, and he was called the richest man in the world, as Elon is now being called. And so he converted his wealth at that time to today's dollars, and it was within a few billion.
Wow.
I mean, so they both are kind of, we get this guy every once in a while. This is kind of what happens, a phenomena, a Halley's Comet or something
Yeah.
that just flies by to give us an example of what could be. But I mean, and so there's always a star we can follow. There's always something that we can do better if we want to.
That's incredible. Wow. Let's change topics.
All
If
right.
we can talk about your personal life a little bit. You got married last year.
Yes, I did.
That's phenomenal.
Why? You think it was about time, or?
Well, why don't you tell us a story about that? Because that's not the first time you've been married.
Oh, yes, I was married. I had just an absolutely phenomenal helper in life, and wife who helped me a great deal in the businesses that we worked in and started, and she helped me a lot in learning about the world. She was a very, very bright woman and well educated, and her father had been a major executive, and so she helped me by telling me the stories about what he did about issues, and we both really were doing very well, and I was under the illusion or observation or something, unfortunately the guys always die before the wife, but there I was, 60 years of marriage, and she ups and succumbs to lung cancer, and she never smoked.
Wow.
I mean, she made sure everybody in the world knew I have lung cancer, stage 4, and I never ever smoked. And so she thought it was unfair, and I did too. And so we spent the last 4 or 5 years of her life, because she was healthy until really the last 6 months. I mean, I made sure we went to every place to try and find a cure and do everything. But in between, I had her write a list of all the things she wanted to do. And so we ran around trying to do all those things and see everything. But unfortunately, she finally had to let go, and I lost her. And I thought, wow. And so I sat home, felt sorry for myself for a little bit, and then I remembered I had my Vistage groups and and all the guys that I really care for, and gals. I'm sorry, gals. I love you. And so I just threw myself into working and doing. And fortunately, one of the past members and still dear friend called me up and said, "Who's taking care of you, States?" And it happens to be a gal. And I said, "Sharon, what do you got in mind?" And she said, "No, States. I'm wondering, my mother had this wonderful housekeeper, and my mother died, and Lily is kind of available." And I said, "Send her over." And so Lily turned out to be a tremendous blessing. And I thought, okay, got everything straightened out. But weekends still became lonely. The weeks were fabulous. The weekends were a little lonely. So I finally, one of the other members said, "States, how's your dating?" And I said, "Oh, I tried that a couple of times, and I'm not fit for dating. It just doesn't work." And so he went home, told his wife that, and his wife called me within about 10 minutes of him telling the story and says, "States, write this phone number down and call it as soon as you and I hang up. I've already called her. She's sitting there waiting. She's who you should be dating." and so I called, and there was Barbara on the other end, and we talked, and so we dated for about a year and a half, and got married June 25th last year. And so our anniversary is coming up this month.
That's amazing.
And it has been an amazing almost year of new marriage. The two of us, she was married before, had a wonderful husband, and they did all kinds of things, traveled around the world 3 times with their children in a couple of those. And so it's we really have an appreciation for each other, and we don't seem to run out of things to talk about. And we both came from completely different worlds, and so we are kind of surprised about what we can teach and tell each other, which makes that also wonderful. So
That's amazing.
So it's been phenomenal. So there is life. I still felt it was unfair that I was sitting there and Louise was gone. I thought I was supposed to be gone, but then unfortunately I had, prior to that, decided I was going to live to at least 150. So I guess I screwed up in that I didn't tell her to do the same thing. In fact, she thought I was goofy and crazy, but then she thought that a long time ago, but
Yeah.
still stayed with me. So shut up, States. I'm going in circles.
No, that's amazing. I love that. It's inspiring because again, I haven't fast forwarded my life that far out yet. So it's
well, be careful because I've forgotten who it was, but somebody, I think it was a Western singer who said, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself.
Well, on that note, I mean, I'll be honest, States.
Has everything else been dishonest?
It hasn't. I knew you were going to say that at the moment I said that, because that's what you say that's how you respond when I say that. You were one of the inspirations for me to stop drinking alcohol, and I'm going to celebrate a year here in about 11 days.
That's fantastic.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I know that, if
just
I
so the crowd knows, we all enjoyed alcohol at one point.
Yes.
But there comes a time when in fact, that when the time comes, it's way too late. You should have done it before. But
yes,
but
and that honestly,
we don't need that damn stuff.
No, totally. That's what I didn't want to have happen. I didn't want that decision to be made for me. I wanted to make it for myself.
And you did.
And I did.
We're proud of you.
I did. Thank you. So yeah, I do smoke the occasional cigar. You had mentioned that, but we'll work on that. It's not often.
I don't know. Those rooms need a little smoke in them. Or maybe we are blowing a lot of smoke. I'm not sure.
We are, just a little bit. You and I had a conversation a little while ago, and you had talked about answers and questions in life, and we were talking about life in general and the answers to life. And I don't even know how to describe this, but we landed on the question is, what is the question? And you and I talked about that. And I don't know if we can dive into that. I don't even know how or where where the entry point into that discussion is, but you were trying to teach me that life wasn't about finding the answer. It was about finding the questions to ask.
Yes. It's truly, it has been my continuous excitement. Why does it work? Why does it exist? Why is it? And the search creates great fun finding the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch a worm crawl along, and when you're really little and you're down at that height, and pretty soon you don't see worms they're still there. You're just taller.
That's true. That's true.
And so so life has different worms at a different height, and about the time we think, boy, is there anything new? Something like out of the world, out of nowhere comes AI, and then you find out it's been around for years, centuries maybe. Where have we been? Well, we haven't been questioning it. It's just been a worm crawling along in its slow pace, and now it's at a really rapid pace, or maybe we just are not able to keep up with the rapid pace. Well, I refuse to not keep up. And so, but I keep asking the questions, how do we keep up, and what do we do, and how do we manage it? And then I remember, the business you're in. When I first got involved in computers and software and the rest, you had to build your own computer, and then you had to hire a technician to build you a computer, and then finally Dell and a few others said, "We'll build it for you." And then you had the other problem of, here's this software and Lotus or whoever, and you put it in the computer, and they didn't speak to each other. So then you had to figure out how to get them to talk to each other. Otherwise, you had all this over here, but it needed to be over here so you could do a thesis. It's all numbers and some words, but you needed it to be in a different form. And so you say, wow, wouldn't it be nice? And about that time, somebody comes up with something, and Bill Gates says, here's some software that all speaks to itself, and you can buy it as a whole group and put it in the computer, and it's all there. And in fact, why don't I sell it to computer manufacturers and they'll just ship it to you with it? Great business sense too. I mean,
Yeah.
built-in customers, us, not the computer guy, but
Yeah.
and so what's next? Well, AI, I don't think is next. I think AI is the beginnings of Lotus and the integration of software talking to each other. Well, that's what AI is doing. So we're right now confused which engine should we use, and if you ask Chat, it tells you, well, I'm good for this, but those other two are really good for that, and so even they admit that they don't have it tied together. Well, eventually they will. And we'll be on to the next whatever it is. I mean, Elon's already building rockets, literally building rockets to go to Mars so that he can put 1 million people on Mars. I mean, while we're sitting around wondering, what to do with Iran.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird when you back up a little even further, get a little taller and look.
It is.
What are we thinking about? What's Iran thinking about?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just goofy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother rabbit hole I can go down.
But no, I mean, if you put Iran and planning 1 million people on Mars by 2070 or something,
Yeah.
I mean, phew.
Yeah.
So I have to be here to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe even go.
Yeah, and I think Elon's changed the trajectory. So before there was just going to be a rocket to Mars, and
No, he always. That could have been his early conversation, but he realizes that there's a couple 3 steps.
Yeah,
Got to populate a few things in between.
Right. So the next goal is to basically to start with the moon.
Yes.
But I heard recently on a podcast that they were talking about they want to get to Mars and they want to launch something to Mars, but they're actually going to use the moon to launch something to Mars using like a rail system. So they're going to build a rail system on the moon and be able to launch something. So we'll launch something to the moon and then launch something from the moon to Mars.
And here we are living in crazy Florida where at the turn of the century, there was goofy old Flagler who was richer than, really rich. And he decides to build a highway through the Keys out there in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Elon's doing out there. And that's how you described it, hop jumped a bridge, to Mars. Well, Mars is not where they want to go. Mars is get some factories and build some missiles there so that we can go on out there and find out where the rest of the people are. That's because they're out there somewhere.
Yeah. 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 You said AI is not the next thing. If you had a crystal ball and you looked into your own crystal ball, like where do you think we're headed there? What was that comment? What do you think is next?
Well, the science fiction writers of the 30s and 40s, of which I was just such an avid reader in the early 40s. I mean, I just could not find enough Isaac Asimov and other writers of that nature and the stuff they talked about, which was just so mind-blowing and so outrageous. I mean, it's just not possible. Well, almost 100% of that's done today. I mean, we have almost all of it. The one that disappoints me the most, I think, is I'm kind of torn between the two, but I think teleportation's the one that really irritates me because I'd really like to be in New York by just picking up my phone or imagining it, and then I'm there.
Yeah.
Instead of all this stuff of going down and standing in line, which is getting overwhelming. So there's got to be a change there as well. And I'm not sure what it is yet, but teleportation was what they talked about. And so the redistribution of molecular matter has been done. One molecule, a 1 billionth of an inch, has been moved in a lab. So I guess we can. That's sort of where AI is in my mind today, and so I'm disappointed we aren't already. And I mean, in your lifetime, it was beam me up, Scotty. That's the teleportation. And the other one is of course, I think we can eliminate a lot of complicated issues that we walk through with mental telepathy. I mean, the ability to communicate mind to mind. Is the other one that the science fiction writers, and it turns out they really weren't science fiction writers. They were forecasters.
Yeah.
They could see stuff we couldn't see.
Let me ask you this then.
I bored you. Moving on.
No, along those lines. So the life that you've lived and everything that you've seen, the big thing now with AI and everything that's going on in the world, there's concern about privacy. So the telepathy thing, that it's scary and exciting all at the same time, because I don't know about you, but most fights that I have with my wife are simply miscommunication. And I'm like, if you could just read my mind,
Yes.
but talk to us a little bit about like what you've seen over the years and in regards to privacy and how that operates. Cause you laughed. I want to hear your
Yes,
thoughts.
I'm laughing because when I get a new secretary, she talks about passwords and this and what can she not look at. And I said, I have no secrets. There's nothing in this office. There's nothing in messages from others. There's nothing in my life that's a secret.
Got it.
There's no need for secrets. And as you were talking, it's the first time I've really given the thing beyond that, other than just moving forward, because I rarely look back. I kind of always charging forward, running forward. I realized that growing up in Fowler, California, which is 9 miles south of Fresno, no one had a lock on their door. No one. I mean, and it was a little town. And so no matter where I was on my roller skates or bicycle, my grandmother and my uncle and my mother all knew where I was and what I was doing, no matter what it was, before I got home.
Yeah.
I mean, there were no secrets.
Yeah.
And the world didn't come to an end. And I didn't, and so I don't know what secrets we need to have. But I don't think we need them. And we seem to be fighting wars and wars and more wars over, secrets.
Secrets. That's a good point. I've never thought about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's something that we don't think enough about. Why do we have to hide everything? If there were no secrets, then what would the evil people, the people you make your living keeping out of? You could spend more time making things work better instead of having to protect the systems and put in firewalls and do all that stuff. Just let it all leak out, but or be accessed or something. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, but I think about it, and I believe that there was no need for secrets, and there is no need for secrets, and there will be no need for secrets, other than the people who want to make an industry out of secrets.
That's fascinating. I've never thought about it.
I have never put it in those words either until you asked the question.
Yeah.
Because my problem with life is I respond to questions.
Wow. That's got me thinking. It's because
that's my job.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what I do every day with all of you. Is what's your problem? What's your biggest issue? What's going on?
Yeah.
What's your question?
It's funny on that note. I joke. I've even told you this, but I joke with other people when we have our one-on-ones. And I know you don't mind me saying it like this, but when we have our one-on-ones and I bring something to you, an issue that I want to think through with you, and you start to talk about the issue, and I'm sitting here listening to you, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I think to myself, where the hell is this crazy old man going with this story?
Yes.
And then every time you bring it back and I'm like, damn it, you're right. And you help me to see a different perspective. And so I appreciate that. And I consider you one of my mentors, and I love you, and I really appreciate.
I appreciate that, and I love all of you guys too.
I appreciate.
I think he's winding us down here.
Yeah, no, I am, because we could probably sit here for another 3 hours.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on my podcast.
I am so honored.
And thank you for dressing up so nicely for my podcast.
I mean, I usually wear my pajamas.
I threw on a hat. I wanted to kind of embrace the whole IT guy look. So I did that.
I remember the first one of these I did, only it wasn't called a podcast. It was just normal TV broadcast.
Yeah.
And I showed up and we're having an interview thing like this. And the guy who I'd seen on TV over and over comes out, and he has on a beautiful shirt, a lovely tie, a jacket, and he's wearing a pair of shorts. Because all they see is this much of us.
Yeah.
But it was my first time to be aware that they don't walk around in those $1,000 suits. They just wear $500 jackets.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, we're gonna be on YouTube, so there'll be audio and video. So for those that are on video, you can see States, and he's always, just to be clear, you're always very, very well dressed, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
My
Thank
mother
you.
and grandmother both would appreciate you saying this.
Well, States, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
All right.